The pump motor was still whining when my phone lit up inside the equipment cabinet, screen bright against the pipes and spiderwebs. "Boss, call me. Now." I had one knee on the concrete pad, one hand on the filter clamp, trying to act like my pulse wasn't climbing. The cabinet door was half open, so I could see the edge of the pool deck, the clean line where water met tile, and beyond that the patio that looked like a magazine spread. Vivian Hart lay on a lounger under a striped umbrella like she'd been placed there on purpose. No book. No drink. Just her eyes locked on the cabinet like she was waiting for me to make a mistake. I wiped my hand on my shorts, felt grit from the powder, and stood up slowly. The metal door creaked a little as I pushed it wider. Vivian didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just lifted her chin a fraction and said, low and controlled, like she was talking to herself more than to me. "You're making it hard for me to behave." The words landed in the space between us like a dropped glass. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just placed. My phone buzzed again in my pocket, like it was impatient. For a second I didn't move. I looked at her, then at the pool, then back at her, trying to decide what kind of day I was having. 6 days earlier, this job had just been a ticket on my route. I'm a pool tech in Santa Barbara. I'm the guy who shows up, fixes what's broken, tests the water, logs the numbers, and leaves. Routine is my oxygen. Same roads, same stops, same checklist. When the office added, "New client, hard residence, debris removal, chemical check," I pictured a gate code and a housekeeper who wouldn't look up. Vivian opened the door herself. Barefoot. A glass of lemonade in her hand like it was a normal thing to offer a stranger with a tool bag. She didn't flirt. Not really. She watched. Like she was checking for honesty in the way I moved. And when I knelt by the skimmer and reached in, I felt her gaze on the back of my neck like sunlight. Now I was back at her place, and the sun had started leaning into late afternoon, warming the stone tiles, turning the water into a sheet of light that hurt to look at. "Vivian," I said, keeping my voice flat. "Professional. The way you talk when you're trying to keep your future intact." She didn't answer right away. She swung her feet down from the lounger and stood. Smooth, unhurried. Like she could take her time because time belonged to her. I could hear the pump, the faint rush of water through the returns. Everything doing what it was supposed to do. My phone buzzed a third time. I stepped out of the cabinet fully and pulled the phone from my pocket. My boss's name sat there like a warning sign. Vivian started walking toward me. Not fast. Not slow. The kind of pace that makes you notice each step. "Is that work?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "I have to take it." She stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could smell citrus on her, lemonade, or maybe something else. Her hair was pinned up in a way that made her look put together without looking like she tried. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes weren't calm. They were sharp. Focused. "You can take it," she said. "I'm not stopping you." The way she said it made it sound like she was stopping something anyway. I glanced at the driveway through the slats of the gate. No cars. No movement. The neighborhood was quiet in that expensive way. Perfect hedges, no barking dogs, no kids on bikes. Just ocean air and money. I hit accept and brought the phone to my ear. "Hey," I said, trying to sound normal. My boss didn't do small talk. "Did you stay at the Hart place after hours last week?" "No," I said too fast. I forced myself to slow down. "I was there to close out the startup. The timer was acting up." I logged it. There was a pause on the line, like he was deciding whether to believe me or whether it mattered. "You were scheduled 9 to 10:30, he said. "The invoice shows you clocked out at 10:30, but the gate log from the community, yeah, they send it, shows your truck leaving at 12:06. My throat tightened. I stared past Vivian at the pool, at the clean water, at the little ripples that meant the returns were pushing right. Everything in front of me looked perfect, which made the conversation feel even worse. "I didn't leave at 12, I said. "I left before 11. I remember because... Logan, he cut in. I'm not calling to argue with you. I'm calling because I got an email this morning. I shifted my weight, stepping away from the cabinet so Vivian couldn't hear every word. The deck was hot under my shoes. What email? I asked. Anonymous, he said. From a Gmail address with no name. It says you've been spending extended time at the Hart residence, and that your behavior is too familiar. The way he said familiar made it sound dirty even though it was just a word. My eyes flicked to Vivian. She was still standing there, arms relaxed at her sides, face calm. But she was watching me closely, like she could tell what kind of trouble this was by the pitch of my boss's voice. I'm working, I said into the phone. I'm on site right now. Everything I do is on the checklist. That's what I need you to stick to, he said. Because you know what kind of account this is. New client. High-end. They sneeze and we catch it. You get me? I swallowed. Yeah. And don't make me the guy who has to guess, he added. If you're going off the clock and hanging out at a client's house, I can't protect you. I stared at the cabinet again, at the pressure gauge and the little smear of dust on the PVC. My hands felt numb. Not from cold. From the feeling of being small. I'm not hanging out, I said. I'm doing the work. Then finish. Log everything. Be clean, he said. And leave when you're done. I'm serious. He didn't say Vivian's name, but he didn't have to. It was in the air. I'll send you photos, I told him. Before and after. Chemicals. Filter reading. Everything. That would help, he said, and I could hear the relief under the frustration. Because if this turns into a complaint, I need something other than your word. My jaw clenched. Who sent it? Doesn't matter, he said. Could be a neighbor. Could be her husband. Could be somebody paid to watch. I don't know. But it landed in my inbox, so now it matters. He lowered his voice, like the office walls had ears. I'm putting it like this, he said. This is your warning shot. You keep it professional, you keep it tight, you keep it on company time only. And if she tries to blur it, you don't. I looked up and Vivian lifted an eyebrow, like she could tell I'd just been told not to do exactly what she wanted. I understand, I said. Good, my boss replied. Call me when you're off the property. The line clicked dead. I stood there for a second with the phone still at my ear, listening to nothing. Then I turned back toward the pool equipment like it was the only safe thing in the world. Vivian's eyes followed me. You okay? She asked. Just work stuff, I said, and I hated how thin it sounded. She took a step closer. Not close enough to touch me, but close enough that it felt like she could if she wanted. Work stuff, she repeated, like she was tasting the phrase. I forced myself to crouch down and focus. I checked the pressure again. I adjusted the valve. I pulled my test kit and did the numbers twice, just to make sure I wasn't shaking. Chlorine was steady. pH was right where I left it last visit. I wrote everything down in the app with my thumb moving a little too fast. Vivian hovered near the edge of the cabinet, watching me like she was watching a show she paid for. When I finished, I snapped a few photos: gauge, equipment, the clear pool surface, the test strip next to the chart. Proof. Insurance. I stood, put my kit back in the bag, and zipped it like I was sealing something away. I'm done, I said. Vivian's mouth curved slightly, not a smile exactly. More like she'd expected me to say that. Already? She asked. It's handled, I said. I have other stops. You always have other stops, she said. I didn't answer. I walked around her instead, keeping space, heading for the side gate. My truck keys felt heavy in my pocket. She followed me with her eyes the whole way. At the gate, I paused long enough to type a quick message to my boss, on my way out. Sending photos now. And hit send with my thumb. Then I pushed the gate open and stepped into the quiet street, the air cooler out there, the ocean smell stronger. I got into the truck, started it, and pulled away without looking back. 2 blocks down, my phone buzzed on the seat. A text. Vivian, dinner. Tonight. I don't want to eat alone. I stared at the screen at a red light, my hands still on the wheel. It wasn't a question. It wasn't flirty. It was direct in the same way she looked at me, like she'd already decided what the answer should be. Another buzz. Vivian, not at the house. Somewhere neutral. That made it worse, not better, because it meant she understood the line and was stepping over it anyway. The light turned green. I drove, but my head stayed stuck back at that equipment cabinet, at my boss's voice saying warning shot, at Vivian standing there like consequences didn't apply to her. I pulled into the next client's driveway and just sat there for a moment, engine idling, looking at my hands. If I said no, I was safe on paper, but it didn't feel like it would end anything. If I said yes, I was stepping into a situation where I had nothing to lose except everything. I typed back with my thumb, kept it short, tried to sound like I still owned myself. 1 hour. That's it. Vivian picked the place, which should have been my first clue that neutral meant neutral for her, not for me. It was a small spot tucked behind a row of palms, 2 blocks off the beach. Low lighting, white stucco walls, a patio you couldn't see from the street unless you already knew where to look. The kind of place locals used on quiet nights and rich people used when they didn't want photos. I parked my truck on a side street with metered spots and checked my reflection in the rearview mirror like an idiot. Hair fine. Shirt clean enough. Hands still smelled faintly like chlorine no matter how much I rubbed them with sanitizer. I walked in and saw her immediately. Vivian was at a table near the back, not hiding, just positioned. She wore a simple black top and jeans, nothing flashy, but everything about her looked expensive anyway. Her phone was face down on the table. A glass of lemonade sat in front of her like it was a private joke. She didn't stand when I got there. She just watched me come closer, the same way she watched me work. Like she was checking if I was real. You came, she said. 1 hour, I reminded her. I heard you, she replied, and then softer. Thank you. I sat across from her, and immediately felt the imbalance. Not because she said anything. Just because the waiter knew her name without asking, and because she didn't glance at the menu like she needed it. Logan, the waiter said, like she'd already told him what to call me. Can I get you something to drink? Water. I almost said water. The safe choice. The boring choice. I'll take lemonade, I said, and Vivian's mouth lifted at one corner. The waiter left, and for a second we just looked at each other while the patio noise filled the gap, silverware, low laughter, the faint thump of music from somewhere inside. You looked tense today, she said. I let out a breath through my nose. I got a call. From your boss, she said like it wasn't a guess. I didn't answer. Vivian leaned back slightly in her chair. Someone complained. The word hit me harder coming from her, like it became official just because she said it. You knew? I asked. I suspected, she said. This neighborhood runs on suspicion. People get bored. They start watching each other. Or somebody wanted to send a message. I said. Vivian's eyes didn't move, but something in her face tightened. Mark. I added, not as an accusation, just saying the name out loud to see what it did. Her hand moved to her glass. She didn't pick it up. She just touched it, fingers resting on the cold surface. He's not supposed to know anything, she said. Is he watching? I asked. Vivian finally lifted her lemonade and took a sip like she needed time to answer. He's strategic, she said. He doesn't have to watch personally. He has reach. I felt my stomach turn. So I'm a piece on his board. That's not what I... She stopped. Recalibrated. That's not what I want. The waiter returned with my lemonade and a plate of something small Vivian hadn't ordered in front of me. Chips and salsa, maybe, but done like it was art. I took a sip. It was sharp and cold and too sweet, like it was trying to distract me. Vivian watched my face as I drank it. Like she needed to know whether I liked what she liked. So, she said, steering away. Tell me about you. Not your route. Not your work voice. You. I almost laughed. I'm not that interesting. You're wrong, she said, calm as a verdict. I stared at her. Why do you keep doing that? Doing what? Making statements like you own reality, I said. Vivian didn't flinch. Because I'm tired of asking for permission to say what's true. That landed in a place I didn't have words for. We ordered food. She didn't make it complicated. Simple plates, things you could eat without turning dinner into a performance. She asked me where I grew up, what I wanted out of life, what I'd do if I didn't have to answer to anyone. I tried to keep it light, but the questions weren't small talk questions. They were the kind of questions people ask when they're trying to find out where your edges are. I want my own business, I admitted at one point, surprising myself. Not like a dream board thing. Just, I'm good at what I do. I want it to be mine. Vivian's eyes warmed in a way that wasn't romantic exactly. More like approval. Like she respected ambition because it matched something in her. You're good, she said. You don't just fix things. You pay attention. I shrugged, but it didn't feel like a shrug. It felt like I was taking in oxygen I didn't realize I was missing. Then her phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Again. The screen lit up where it sat face down, and even without seeing it I knew it mattered, because Vivian didn't ignore anything unless she was choosing to. She flipped it over. The name flashed for a second before she turned it face down again. Mark. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. He's persistent, I said. Vivian's jaw tightened slightly. He wants control of the story. What story? I asked. Our separation, she said. Our life. Our image. Everything is an asset to him, even when it's already broken. The way she said broken made me picture that big house with the perfect pool and the spotless deck, like a set built around an empty middle. You're separated, I said carefully. Yes, she replied. He's not gone. He's just not living there. And he still calls, I said. He still calls, she confirmed. We ate. The hour I promised passed without me noticing. The conversation didn't drag. It didn't float. It just moved point to point, like we were walking along a line that already existed. When we finished, I reached for my wallet out of reflex. Vivian covered my hand lightly with hers, just for a second. Don't, she said. I can pay for my own dinner, I replied, trying to pull my hand back without making it a thing. I know you can, she said. This isn't that. It was the first time she'd touched me, and it was so simple it made my skin feel loud. Outside, the air had cooled. The sky over the ocean was turning dark blue, and the palm trees made long shadows across the sidewalk. Okay, I said, and I meant leaving. I meant going back to my truck, back to my life, back to being careful. Vivian didn't move toward her car. She looked toward the street that led up the cliffs instead, like she was already somewhere else. Come with me, she said. To where? I asked. She glanced at me, and for the first time that night she looked almost uncertain. Not weak. Just human. Just a drive, she said. No music. No talking if you don't want to. I just don't want to go back to that house yet. I should have said no. I could hear Riley in my head already, the way he'd talk when a job started smelling like trouble. But Vivian wasn't asking like a client. She was asking like a person who'd been alone in a crowded room for too long. 1 hour was the deal, I reminded her. I know, she said. Then make it 1 more. I hesitated, then nodded once, like I was doing it for her, not because I wanted to feel what it was like to be chosen. Her car was parked around the corner, a clean convertible with the kind of paint that looked wet even at night. She unlocked it without looking down, like the car was an extension of her. When she slid behind the wheel, she didn't turn the music on. She didn't touch the screen. She just started the engine, and the quiet purr felt expensive. I got in, and as we pulled away, the restaurant disappeared behind us like it had never existed. We drove with the ocean on one side, dark and endless, and the cliffs rising on the other like a wall. The road curved up and out, and the city lights fell behind us in soft clusters. Vivian kept both hands on the wheel. She didn't look at me much, but I could feel her awareness of me like heat. Her phone buzzed again in the center console. She didn't even glance at it this time. I watched the dark road ahead, the yellow lines flicking past, the pull-offs that led to overlooks where people parked.